Good morning. We're about to go for a neighborhood walk with Cayman. So the neighborhood walk, the walk starts inside the house. Whether you have your puppy sit at doors, going out of your own house, I generally do, especially if the puppy is pushy about going out the door or extra enthusiastic. We want to start the walk under control, not out of control. So we will have Cayman sit at the door before she goes out. Ready, Cayman? Let's go. Good girl, Cayman, sit. Good, stay. Nope. Sit. Wait her out. She knows what to do. She just wants to go. And if enough time goes by and she still doesn't sit, I'm just going to ask her to sit again. Cayman, sit. Good girl. Stay. Stay. Nope. Be patient with this. Cayman, sit. Good girl. Stay. Stay. Let's go. Good girl. Okay, same thing at this door, and also there's mulch on the way out. I don't know about you, but my puppy loves to eat mulch, so I need to know that I need to be ready to hand tether if I need to, which I actually just did because there's a piece of mulch right there, and to reward if she's not going for it. If you don't do anything, your puppy's going to eat the mulch if it's available. Good girl. Stay. Let's go. Yes, good girl. I marked and rewarded her there because, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there is a little piece of mulch right on the ground as we walk out. She might try to go for it again, so I'm ready to mark and reward again. Yes, good girl. This time I'm going to reward in motion so that we get past the mulch and she doesn't go for it after she eats the treat. Good girl. Ready? The next thing I'm going to do before we go out is busy her. We do not want them busying on the walk. It's one thing if there's an emergency and they really have to go, but we prefer they take care of that before they leave the house. So, ready, Cayman? Let's go. Good girl. Busy, busy. Good girl, Cayman. Good girl. Good job. Let's go. And I know Cayman's schedule. I know she probably doesn't have to poop because she already did. That does not mean that I'm not prepared with lots of poop bags because, of course, you should always be prepared with lots of poop bags. Okay, ready? Let's go, Cayman. Good girl. So, if you have a very young puppy or one that likes to scavenge things along the grass line, then it's permissible for you to walk that puppy in the street until they get a little older and have better self-control, assuming that your street is safe to walk in. She's old enough that she no longer picks up every single thing on the ground, but she will still sometimes go for a big thing. So while I'm walking, I'm going to be scanning ahead and looking for things on the sidewalk that might interest her and trying to mark and reward her when she looks at them, but before she goes for them. So you'll hopefully notice me doing that throughout the video to some extent. The other thing I want to show you on this walk is what is acceptable leash walking and what is not. She doesn't have to have a perfect loose leash the entire time. It doesn't have to look like this the entire time. If there's a little bit of tension on it, that's okay. What I don't want is her lunging for things or going on a walk not paying any attention to me at all. So if she lunges for something, I'm going to hand tether her, then reward her when she stops pulling. Then I'm going to ask for a nice loose leash for several steps until I feel like we're together again. All right? Let's go. Good girl. Good girl. Yes. I marked and rewarded her there because there's a big thing of mulch on the sidewalk. And then a drop tree. Good girl. Let's go. Atta girl. Good job. So she's a little bit ahead of me. Oh, now she's got a little air sense. A little air sense is not something I'd usually do anything about. For one thing, because you can't really do anything about it. They're going to air sense. It's like people window shopping. But as long as they pretty quickly come back to me, then I don't worry too much about it. Let's go. Good girl, Cayman. Good girl. So a little bit ahead of me like this. To me, that's not a big deal. Leash is still pretty loose. We like them to be dogs that like to get out and go, but I am not going to let her walk onto the grass. Let's go. Good girl. And you can see she's still sniffing a little bit. And again, that kind of sniffing does not really bother me. Let's go, Kim. Good girl. That's a good girl. Hopefully she'll do something interesting soon, or this is not going to be a really exciting meeting. Good girl. And little minor disengagements like that where I can see that she's caught a scent and she would like to investigate it, that's usually remedied just by a let's go. As long as I say it in a perky tone of voice. If I'm just like, let's go, she's probably not going to listen. Come on, let's go. Good girl. Good girl. Yep, let's go. Good girl. Good job. Oh, okay, this is a total surprise. So sometimes this happens. If this happens, there is nothing I can do other than say to myself that, well, one, that when she was sniffing on the grass earlier, that she did have to go. That two, that I don't always know when she's going to go, even though I should, because she's already pooped twice today. I have no idea why she pooped a third time. This is not at all like her. Come in. Good girl, come and sit. Good. Stay. We're not going to correct her. We're not going to do anything about it except pick it up and move on. But I do like her to sit and stay while I'm picking it up. Stay. Good girl. This is literally the first time that's ever happened for her. So, for those of you whose dogs poop on your walk and talks and you say, he never does this, I totally believe you, and my dog does it too. So don't worry about it. No, I got it. Okay, let's go. Moving on with it. I thought she was a little sniffy. I'm actually glad to know she had an honest reason for sniffing. Good girl, Kaylin. Yes. The reason I rewarded her there was a clump of mulch on the ground. And the reason I rewarded her in motion is because if I stopped and rewarded her, she would have eaten the treat and then she would have lunged for the mulch. So when we're working on loose leash, we always like to stop and reward if there's no distractions present. So let me show you what I mean by this. All right, we're going to stop. Sit. Good girl. And I'm going to tell her, let's go, and then I'm going to mark and reward loose leash, and then I'm going to stop and reward. Come on. Let's go. Yes. So I stop. If she gets out a little ahead of me, I move her back into position with my treat delivery. And then I say, Kimmin, let's go. And then we start again. Yes. Stop. Back into position. Okay. Let's go. Good girl. So why do I stop when I'm working on loose leash without distractions? It's because, let's go. Yes, good girl. Let's go. I'll get back to that in a second, but what happened right there is that she saw somebody sitting in the garage and she was a little bit unsure. So when I see her looking at something that she's a little bit unsure of, I like to mark and reward the looking at it, because I feel like in her mind she's thinking, is that okay, or what should I think of that? And I want to tell her, yeah, it's okay. In fact, it's good. You should look at it. And you can see that when I did that, her demeanor changed and then her confidence came back up again. So I like to do that with things that they are uncertain about. Let's go, Kaylin. If she had been actively afraid of it, then I would have moved her further and probably marked and rewarded from a distance. Let's go. Once we get in the shade by the mailbox, I'll tell you more, talk to you more about, let's go. Yes. About stopping and marking and rewarding versus rewarding in motion. Let's go, Kim. Good girl. Good girl, Kim. I'm going to go over to the mailbox. Good girl. Ready? Give it a sit. Good girl. Stay. box, I'll have her do a stay. This is a good example of just throwing in an obedience command throughout the day. Stay. Nope. Cayman, sit. Good, stay. She gets up, I just put her back in position, stay. We have no mail. Stay. But while we're sitting here, I want to point out one more thing. Even though it's trash day and there's lots of trash cans on the side, I'm not throwing my dog poop in somebody's empty trash can because people get mad at that. So I will hold on to it through the whole walk if I have to. Okay, back to rewarding in motion versus rewarding in position. The other reason that I think it's good to stop and reward and then say let's go is because it reminds the dog that you're the one in charge of when you start walking, not the dog. So if the dog gets used to waiting for your instruction before continuing forward motion, that's just one of the things that makes the dog tune into you better. Any of those things we can use, we want to use them, because left to their own devices, the dogs are going to go out and explore the world, and we just want them to remember they're connected to us. It's not about being dominant, it's just about letting them know that they should look to us for instruction. So I'm tethering right here. I don't know what she smells or sees. Yes, girl. Good girl. One more thing, and that is a question that I get often is, when do you stop rewarding for coming back to heel position or loosening tension after a distraction? While there is no black and white answer, my short answer is when I feel like the dog's had enough repetitions to understand that if they lunge for something, they're expected to come back to heel position. And at that point, then I will probably stop marking and rewarding every single time they come back. Because if you mark and reward every time, you can create the yo-yo. That's the dog that goes out, pulls, feels tension, comes back, gets a treat, goes out, pulls, feels tension, comes back, gets a treat. I don't want them to do that. And when I feel like they've had enough experience with that, like this dog has, Cayman, I want her to see what I'm going to throw some food out in the middle of the road. She's probably going to go for it. So when she does go for it, when we walk past it, I'm still going to tether. I'm still going to praise her when she comes back to heel position or when she releases tension, but I'm not going to treat her until we've had several steps of loose leash walking, because I want her to realize that that's where the payment is. It's in continuous loose leash walking, not in releasing pressure from a lunge. We want to avoid the lunge in the first place. That's the goal of all this training. All right, so throw some food off to the side. Let's go. Good girl, let's go. Yes, good. So I still praised her when she came back to position, but I did not mark and reward her. I marked and rewarded her when she had several steps of loose leash walking. All right, now we're going to cross back over and get onto the sidewalk. How's my battery? Good? Okay, let's go. Good girl. Good girl, Cayman. That's a good girl. All right, let me show you one more thing. When you're working on underfootings, this right here is an example of one that it's not a great idea to work on underfootings with. The reason is because it's so small that a lot of dogs see it as something that could be avoided, and so they'll try to avoid it. Sometimes they may not even have an issue with underfootings at all, but they might just think that this is a little thing they don't have to walk over, so why should they? So I'm probably just going to ignore this one, and I'll save my underfootings for like big, obvious underfootings that take up most of the sidewalk, so give them less perceived opportunity to get around it. Right, Cayman? What do you think? Good girl. Let's go. Atta girl. Good girl. So we don't have a lot of traffic in our neighborhood because it's quiet. But I do notice if she has a reaction to any traffic moving around her. She used to in the beginning, and now she doesn't so much. But I still pay attention to it. Let's go. I don't know if that noise showed up on video, but that was something like sounded like a truck horn coming from the freeway that's just a little bit that way. And she did notice it because she is noise sensitive and she notices noises. But she didn't really do anything about it. She just looked and then kept going. Good girl, Cayman. Okay, so we've got a long stretch of nothing coming up, so I'll show you what not to do. Let's go. Oh, drop it. Oh. Little tiny speck of something. I'm going to show you what not to do while you're walking with your dog. Ready, Cayman? Let's go. Okay, so this is how not to take a walk with your dog. Oh, look. I got a text message. Who's it from? Oh, geez. Do I have to call him? I don't know. So my dog's just she's doing whatever she wants, and I'm not paying attention because I'm looking at my phone. So don't be the person who walks your dog and checks your phone. If you get like a notification that you have to pay attention to, then just stop and take it out. A lot of the time she picks something up is when I'm doing something like that. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed it, but she did a little jump back there when the car door slammed. Good girl. All of these are just things I'm noticing and putting in my memory for later. Good girl, Cayman. If she gets a little too far ahead, I'll ask her to come back by my side, but like I said, I don't care if she's a little, hey, let's go. I don't care if she's a little tiny bit in front. And little tiny sniffs like she just did, those I can usually move her along front with just a verbal let's go. She will. So you don't have to hand tether for every single little thing. A lot of it you can just get them moving with a verbal reminder like, hey, I'm here. Okay, we're going to cut through the park. And finally I'll be able to throw this away. Let's go, Karen. Good girl. Hey, let's go. Okay, one more thing. So we do want our dogs to follow left shorelines, but if you have a puppy that's really persistent about sniffing the grass, and it's sniffing like every step, then you don't have to be over on the left edge where it's going to be able to do that continuously. You can move the distance that will allow your puppy to be successful, especially a younger puppy. And just make a note, over time you want to be able to walk on the left edge by grass if you have to, but you do not have to do that right away. Okay, let's go, Kim. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl, Kim. Let's go. So I'm moving a little further away from the grass, just because a lot of people walk their dogs here. And a lot of dogs pee right there. So that is not setting her up for success. Good girl, Cayman. And she will actually, when she gets a little ahead and feels the tension on her leash, she'll actually stop herself and loosen it up. Good girl. Which is nice. She sees a bird. Can you put the camera over to show the snake bird? Okay. Oh, it's not. Oh yeah, the snake bird. So she sees him, but she doesn't really, I don't think, cares that much. Let's go, Cayman. Hey. Yes, good girl. Good girl. And that's not a case where I feel like I had to reward in motion because the distraction isn't close enough. The ones where I reward in motion are the ones where if she lunges, she could get it after she eats the treat. Now, when they do like, oh, never mind, she moves. I'll wait for another chance. Let's go, Cayman. Hi, girl. Good girl. She was just getting a little fast and out ahead of me, so I decided this is a good time to work on loose leash for a few steps. Cayman, let's go. Yes. Good girl. Good girl. Ready? Let's go. Good girl. Wait until we get to the open trash because I don't want to touch that one. The reason I'm marking and rewarding her more frequently now is just because I need to. For whatever reason, she's been further ahead of me on this stretch than she has been on other parts of the sidewalk. So If I need to up food reinforcement, then I will. Let's go. The appropriate level of food reinforcement is whatever's necessary to keep the behavior that you want. Let's go. Good girl. And while we're always trying to decrease it to whatever level, whatever minimum level the dog will work for, we don't want to decrease it just because she's old enough and she shouldn't need it. Yes. Good girl. The reason I marked and rewarded her there is because I saw her looking at those palm fronds and I thought she was probably going to go over and sniff them. So I wanted to get her attention back on me and reward her before she made a bad decision and move her away from them at the same time. Ready, Cayman? Let's go. Maybe she wasn't going to sniff them, but I haven't lost anything by marking and rewarding her loose leash. Let's go, Cayman. So we're going to cut through the pavilion, and I'm just going to do just a couple conditioning exercises in there because we have the stuff and it's easy to. So walking across grass, she might sniff a little bit, but again, as long as she's continuing forward progress, coming with me and not planting her nose, I'm probably not going to micromanage her on the grass, although if I felt like doing a training session of loose leash on the grass, that would be an option too. Maybe I'll do that coming out of here. Let's go. Good girl, Cayman. Yay, let's go. Moving in my direction, sniffing a little bit. Atta girl. Maybe I shouldn't put that on the table. Okay, so we're going to do some, I'm going to have her army crawl under this picnic bench. Come here, Cayman. Atta girl. Good job. Hey, sit. Good girl. Down. All the way. Good girl. Stay. Nope. Cayman, sit. Good girl. Down. Down. All the way. Good girl. Good girl. Stay. This is kind of different for her. She has not actually crawled under these before. Good girl. So I'm just going to get her relaxed and then down before I ask her to come under them. Good girl. Stay. Stay. Stay, Cayman. We're going to use a lure. Good girl. Well, that's not much of an army crawl, is it? There we go. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. And now that she has been rewarded for doing it, now I think she probably understands what I want her to do. So this one should go quicker. Stay. Stay. Hey, come here, Cayman. Hey, come on. Atta girl. All the way. It's really just too high for her to do a good army crawl under, so okay. That wasn't the best conditioning demo. But when she gets another couple inches taller, it will be. Alright, let's go, Cayman. Alright. So we're going to walk out of here, and this time I'll show you what it looks like if I'm working on loose leash, walking across the grass. She's watching an osprey. Yes, good girl. You can reward them even for looking, even if they're distracted, because what you're rewarding is the choice not to pull for them. So see how she's now connected to me again? Good girl. You're always looking for opportunities to reconnect with them. Let's go, Cayman. Atta girl. Okay, so on the grass I might need a higher rate of reinforcement, so I'm just going to plan on that being the case. Ready, Cayman? Let's go. Yes! Good girl. Good girl, Cayman. Ready? Let's go. Yes! Good girl! Good girl. Ready, Cayman? Let's go. Yes! Good. Cayman, let's go. Yes! Good girl. Good girl. Let's go. Good girl, Cayman. Yes! Good job. Ready? Cayman? Cayman. When they zone out like this, sometimes I'll just do that, like tickle their side. Hey, good girl, let's go. Yes, good. Back in position. Atta girl, Cayman. Ready? Let's go. Good girl. Good, Cayman. One reason reason that, one thing I meant to point out is that most dogs' leashes are going to tighten at several points along the walk. And sometimes if they're diving for something, sometimes you do have to pull up just a little tiny bit to stop them from getting it. If hand tethering isn't going to stop them from eating something that you didn't notice till it's right under their feet. But the goal is always to get back to a loose leash as quick as possible. So say she did dive for something and I had to go like this, I would right away try to get back to that. Ideally, we want to just hand tether and wait for them to release the pressure, but in a not perfect world that we live in, sometimes we have to prevent them from gratifying their lunge by getting a reward. And in that case, we might have to briefly do that. It's better to do this than to let them eat something off the ground, but it's still better to hold a correct leash grip all the time and scan up ahead for distractions coming up so you can keep your dog at the right distance where it can control itself. Right, Cayman? Let's go. Good girl. I had no idea if she was going to go for that thing or not. It turns out it wasn't that interesting to her, but again, I haven't lost anything by marking and rewarding a loose leash, and I've possibly avoided her making a bad decision to try to go get it. Ready? Let's go, Kim. Whoa. A lot of birds in that tree. She didn't seem to hear them, but they startled me. Let's go. Atta girl. Whoops. I attempts to not touch the trash can. Let's go, Kimmy. Atta girl. I was thinking about going out to the main road and doing a traffic exposure, but I think she's getting a little warm. So we're going to head back home. Don't worry, we still have plenty of walking to do. And I'm still hoping we'll see another dog somewhere. They're all over the place except for when I need one for filming. Let's go. Atta girl. Good job, Cayman. Just going to see if we can walk a little closer to the side. Yes! Because we practiced on wet grass earlier, or smelly grass, close to grass, I thought maybe she'll do a little better about walking without slipping, and I was right. She did. It's nice to be right. Okay, Cayman, let's go. Good job. Let's go. Good girl. This is not much of an underfooting, but it is an underfooting. The bumps at the edges of curbs, they're actually called truncated domes. You will never ever have to know that, but they are. So I do like to get them to stand on those when they can, because that's going to be part of, good girl, that's going to be part of their career as a guide dog. Let's go. Good job. But hopefully you can see how the repeated stops and lets goes help to tune her into me. Good girl, Cayman. What a good girl. Now there's a good underfooting up here, so this is an example of a good underfooting to practice on. Let's go. Yes. The reason that it's good is because it's big. So she doesn't look at it and see it as something she could go around. She doesn't care about underfootings anyway, and she probably wouldn't have cared about the small one either. But just in general, it's better to practice on big ones than really small ones. Let's go. See if she sees that bird over there. Yes, that's a limp. Girl. She sees it. So we'll see how distracted she gets. Yes! I'm just going to reward her just for looking at it a few times. We don't want them to feel like they can't look at things. Now what I have to decide is, am I too close? Is she going to lunge? I think she might, so I'm going to go over into the road and set her up to be successful. Cayman, let's go. Yes! Good girl! Let's go. Yes! Good girl! Cayman, let's go. Yes. Good girl. Let's go. Yes. Good girl. Good job. Good. That limpkin was very cooperative. It just sat there like I couldn't have set it up better myself. So thank you, bird. Again, I don't know, maybe she could have walked past it on the sidewalk, but it's better, especially when they're young, haven't had quite as much experience with impulse control. It's better to just make sure that you're setting them up to be successful. And another way to do that is to not stand right next to your distraction and talk, and give the puppy nothing to do but look at the distraction. So don't do what I just did. Move your dog further and then stop and talk about it. Let's go. Good girl. So I would say that is like a moderate bird distraction. She stopped, she froze, she kind of fixated, but she could be redirected pretty easily and there was no lunging, so I consider that like an average bird distraction. Will, do you agree? He just gave me a thumbs up, yes. Average bird distraction. Good girl. So now I'm going to ask her to come back in the heel position. Anna, let's go. Yes. Just because she was getting a little too far ahead of me. I don't know the reason. Let's go. Good girl. Maybe she's just hot and wants to get back to the house. I totally understand. Good girl. Atta girl. The sniffing she's doing right here is borderline. Is that okay sniffing or not? Yes, because she's continuing to move forward. Almost not, because she's getting progressively more interested in it. So I probably would step away from the grass line at that point. Let's go. Good job, Kim. Atta girl. Good girl, Kim. I know. It's warm out. It's warm, but it's not that hot. If it was hotter, I would have gone for a shorter walk or I would have brought water, but it's really not that hot. Girl. And the ground is not that hot either. But a good thing to do is if your dog is acting like they might be uncomfortable, then it's a good idea to stop and check the surface of the ground with your hand to see if it's hot. This is not hot at all. But in the afternoon, the street can be really, really hot, and so can the sidewalk. So just another thing to keep in mind when you're walking your dog. Good girl, Kitten. Nope. Good girl, let's go. Yes.
We're down to 1 bar of battery.
Okay, just keep recording. Let's go. I think it's probably going to hold out. Sometimes they look at things like parts of trash cans funny, which is why I like walking on trash day. That's actually a really common thing that dogs react to with suspicion is things out on trash day, just because they're out of position or they're not normally there. So I think she had a moment of like mild, very mild concern about what is that, and then she dismissed it really quickly. So I didn't feel like I had to do any additional reinforcing for walking up to it or anything like that. Hey, let's go. This right here is another underfooting that in this case I wouldn't use as one because unless I was going to walk in the grass, then it would be okay. But if I'm trying to stay on the sidewalk and get her to walk on it, see how she kind of pulled away from it? It's because she sees, it's because she sees all this wide open sidewalk on the left. If I was going to use this, I'd have to go on the grass. Like, let's go, Cayman. Yes, good girl. She will walk on it if she has to, but many dogs will try to avoid it if they think they can. Good girl. Good girl. I think now she's mostly thinking about getting home. What a good baby. Good. Very good, Kayman. Good girl. So again, she's a little in front of me, but her leash is still pretty loose. Let's go. Yes, that's a place where I should have rewarded her before because I know that dogs pee on that bush And I should have rewarded her the second she turned and looked at it, but I did not. So training opportunity lost. Oh well. Go. Atta girl. Came and sit. Can you just hit record and stop it and finish the rest on your phone? Do you have your phone? Okay. Did you hit record?
Stop.
Yeah, stop. Let's go. Good girl. We had a battery discussion. We decided to try to make it home on the one bar. Good girl. Hey, come on. Okay, so this is one where I'm tethering because I don't want her to be able to plant her nose down there. Whatever that is, it's strong. Yes, good girl. And that time I did mark and reward her because whatever that is, it's very strong because she hasn't really done that anywhere else. So I don't know what's there, but it's obviously something that's really interesting to her. Let's go, Kimmin. Good girl. Good girl. That was also a case where I actually had to raise my arm just a tiny bit. I call it chicken wing when your arm goes up like this, and it's generally bad. But if that had been like spilled food all over the floor that I had seen, I wouldn't try to walk her right through it. But because it was a smell, it was invisible, I couldn't predict it. So I just kind of ended up caught there. And it's nobody's fault, just do the best you can and move on. Fortunately, dogs are very forgiving. Good girl, Caitlin. Bumps. Okay, let's go. So if your dog was a guide dog, in this situation they have to walk over on the left side. So this is definitely one where I will walk on the left side as opposed to in the middle of the road. This is shorelining, following a parallel edge. And let's go. Yes. And she might need a higher rate of reinforcement here just because, again, because so many dogs walk right there. Ready? Let's go. Good girl. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on. Okay, so I'm going to take one step further away from the edge. There you go. Good job. Oh, good. Here's an example of another underfooting that I personally would not walk my dog on. The reason why I wouldn't is because the holes in it are so big that her foot could actually slip through and get caught. And if she did not have an underfooting issue, this is a good way to create one. So if the spacing is too big, don't let them walk. Don't try to get them to walk on it because it could be a bad experience that you then have to spend a lot of work trying to undo. Let's go. Atta girl. Even if your dog tries to target it because maybe you've done a lot of work on underfootings and they think everything is something they should step up on, I would steer them clear of those big ones. Atta girl. Yes! Good girl! The reason I yesed her there is because I could tell she caught scent of something that was really good. I don't know what it was, but I didn't want to repeat what happened before. Come in, let's go. Yes! Good girl. Now this is the thing she has had an issue with in the past. She's been a little fearful of dogs barking like that. Good girl. Ready? Let's go. And you can see she's still not super sure because where her tail was. Yes! And her face looks kind of worried. She's kind of got worry lines on her face and her ears are a little tight. Come on, let's go. Yes! When I first got her, she would have been at the end of her leash on the other side of me. So we made a lot of progress. Let's go. Yes. Good girl. I predict that pretty soon that's just going to look like regular distraction and not discomfort. But right now there's definitely a little bit of discomfort in there still. So it's okay. She's young. We'll work on it. Good girl. Let's go. Thank goodness, shade. Good girl. talk to your dog sometimes, even if there's nothing really going on. You don't have to talk to them non-stop all the way down the road like, oh, who's a good girl? You're such the best girl. What a good girl. Because then they'll tune you out. But I wouldn't go too long without just a good girl. Hey, let's go. Yes, good. Let's go. Atta girl. Good girl, Kanan. She got a little too far ahead of me, so yep. Good girl. Let's go. Yes. Good job. Let's go. Good girl. Good girl, Kaylin. So how do I know when she's pulled too much? I don't know. I just do. It's hard to explain. Let's go. Hi, how are you? Good. Let's go. Good girl. Let's go. Good girl. Came in sit. Yes. Good girl. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed our neighborhood walk. We'll have a recap of the things that we covered after this. Cayman, you did a great job. What a good girl. Good girl. Thank you, Will, for being my cameraman. And we can discuss this in the questions after the meeting.